Philly's final practice on Friday before traveling to Baltimore came with both great news and some bad. Back as a key weapon, but lost for the season as a rising stud. Also hear why Baltimore's leading sack man might be out on Sunday, and how Vic Fangio plans to finally slow down King Henry. And Thomas Mott, this is the Thomas Mott Show. Well, the quarterback and running back face-off we've all been waiting for is finally here, as the Birds hop on a bus this morning and make that short drive down to Baltimore to take on the waiting Ravens, what many hope to be potentially a Super Bowl preview. The good news for the Birds was that Friday's practice seemed positive, with DeVonta Smith spotted there yet again, actually in pads for the second day in a row, albeit in a limited fashion according to the brand new Friday injury report, and a little bit mum on his status in the locker room, but I think he's trending towards playing on Sunday.
I still don't know right now.
Okay. What exactly happened?
I was just running, just felt the next week. I'm gonna do whatever they tell me to do. If they tell me to sit, I'm gonna sit. Tell me to go, I'll go.
Well, and by this point in the season, you know the drill. Drop me Lamar Jackson's passing yards, touchdowns, and interceptions in the comment section. Get it perfectly right, and I'll send you one of my Thomas Mott Show t-shirts. Somebody is going to do it this week. Honestly, Smitty being, I think, 95% chance of actually playing could be extremely beneficial, as Baltimore's really great run defense reversely has the 31st ranked pass defense to boot. I mean, just 3 weeks ago, they gave up 264 passing yards and 3 touchdowns to Jamar Chase, so I'm hoping AJ and Smitty absolutely demolish the secondary on Sunday. Still, Friday's practice wasn't all good news, as Darius Slay, speaking of cornerbacks, he missed again with the concussion and is officially out. Also, Johnny Wilson seemed here. He did not practice, was in a hoodie, has a new hamstring that just popped up out of nowhere. No clue if he plays, but worth noting. The biggest loss from Friday's practice, and really the biggest news this week, has to be the loss of linebacker/fullback Ben Van Sumeren, who apparently suffered a season-ending knee injury based on the initial diagnosis during Friday's practice, according to Jeff McClain. And while sure, Sumeren isn't a starting linebacker, but his special teams ability, and more importantly, him being a fullback, which was really starting to come on, not having him out there going forward is definitely a loss. Sumeren was on the field as a fullback for 20 running plays so far this season, where the Eagles gained 124 yards on the ground on those 20 carries at an average of 6.2 yards per rush. Saquon is still Saquon, and they do plenty of runs without a fullback, but man, you hate to see this happen for the young, kind of hybrid fullback linebacker. Drop a like down below for Van Sumeren to hopefully get back and better than ever in 2025. Oh, and one big Raven injury to keep an eye on is edge rusher Kyle Van Noy, who leads Baltimore with 8 sacks this year, but missed practice every single day this week with both a hamstring and a neck. He's doubtful, making him a game-time decision, but if he can't go, looking like he's not going to, this is a massive loss for Baltimore. Now, of course, injury updates aside, I don't have to tell you just how difficult this matchup is going to be for Philadelphia. Baltimore comes in with the #1 offense in the NFL and the #1 defense against the run. This offense especially is going to be quite the challenge for Vic Fangio and company to slow down.
I mean, how much do you look forward to this matchup and seeing your guys and what they can do?
Yeah, I'd rather play Swarthmore, but yeah, I mean, you look forward to it, but yeah, you look forward to it. It's a test. It's a challenge. You get all that.
Also, if you haven't heard this yet, Vic Fangio's defenses historically have had some serious trouble against Lamar Jackson's Ravens over the years. Most recently, Week 17 of last year, how about Fangio's Dolphins giving up 321 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and a perfect 158.3 passer rating to Jackson's Ravens. 2 years prior to that was Fangio's Broncos unit that lost 23-7 in Denver behind a 300-yard passing performance once again from Lamar.
Great success against you guys, against your defenses in particular. I think his numbers are off the charts.
Well, thanks for reminding me.
Well, do you have, for lack of a better term, nightmares about him? Just, and how aware are you of that?
Yeah, their whole offense is dynamite. You know, they run it great. They throw it great. They got good receivers. They got the best group of receivers they've had there in a long time. 2 really good tight ends. Their line is blocking good. You know, it's no accident they have the #1 offense in the league.
But in defense of Fangio, his defensive unit this year feels very different, whether it's the excellent play on the back end by the young corners, the linebackers putting together elite film seemingly week after week, or of course the front 4 that has improved dramatically seemingly each and every week. And as elite as King Henry's been this season, he has had a couple of games, 6 to be exact, where he's rushed for under 100 yards. Most recently, his 13-carry, 65-yard performance in that loss on the road against Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago. I'd look for Jordan Davis to get a lot more snaps this week, not just in run defense, but as Vic Fangio explained, they're going to do a lot more base defense to try to counter King Henry.
He can organically get more snaps this week just because, you know, there's probably a better chance we'll be playing some base defense this week.
Now flipping over to the offense, and the run game remains the focus. Saquon is coming off his record-setting performance last week versus the Rams, but will now face that number 1 ranked rush defense in Baltimore, whose worst performance this year was allowing just 88 yards to Chase Brown a couple of weeks ago. Still, offensive coordinator Kellen Moore doesn't seem deterred in the slightest and will look to run the ball early and often on Sunday.
Certainly, we feel like we have some advantages associated with the run game. Certainly, there's a lot of confidence with it. By no means are we stubborn to that point, but we understand that it'll be a challenge, just like every week. There's challenges for every opponent that we face. These guys have done a really good job against the run game. Certainly, we'd like to run the football, but we understand that sometimes pass game becomes more viable in certain situations, and so we're ready to make those adjustments as games go.
Staying with that offense, and regardless of Jalen Hurts trying to downplay how crazy of a matchup this is, and obviously the emphasis on the running backs, this is still one of the marquee mobile quarterback battles that we've been looking for all season long. Top 2 rushing quarterbacks in the league, they're facing off for the first time this season. Still, it's not just the running abilities of both Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts the past couple of weeks that have contributed to both offenses having a ton of success. It's being turnover-free, with both quarterbacks having 1 interception in their last 6 games. I think first to make a mistake could be a real difference in this one.
Yeah, I think you live for every moment and every opportunity, and this is the next opportunity. It's a really good opponent. We've had different challenges throughout the year, and we know this is a great team we're about to play. They've had a ton of success, and they've continued that throughout the year, so it'll be a great challenge for us as a team.
Still, though, all analytics aside and matchups aside, this game really matters for one reason and one reason only: playoff seeding. We obviously all understand that getting the 1 seed is the most important factor going forward, making football teams come to Philadelphia, play in the weather in January, and face the Eagle fans of the Link. And with Detroit narrowly escaping a Thanksgiving defeat, once again thanks to Caleb Williams, the Birds currently sit 1 game out of the 1 seed, with a loss putting them now 2 games back. The good news is the Lions have a much tougher schedule down the stretch, but losing to Baltimore would put them in that 2-game hole that makes it a little more difficult to climb out of going into December, which is something myself and Josh Davis, along with the rest of the Eagle-Riven matchup, talked about during our weekly live stream a couple of days ago. You just wonder if Philadelphia's defense, having played against Jalen Hurts all, training camp long and really for the past couple of years, but this unit has played against Jalen Hurts for a while now, that they would be at least a little bit better equipped, right? And I think that the idea of Bond and Dean being a little more speed linebackers than kind of the more physical linebackers that you typically see in the National Football League might help as well. They got to do a big job spying. Cooper DeJean, open field tackling ability is also something interesting here. Imagine him one-on-one versus Lamar versus Devontae Maddox, right? Lamar's tough, and Lamar's record versus NFC opponents is always, way up there. He has like 1 loss because it's so rare that NFC teams actually play Lamar Jackson. So I think this is going to be a very difficult game. And this was always a game, Josh, if you asked Eagle fans before the season, hey, where are the L's on this schedule, right? Coming back from LA, cross-country flight, immediately turn around Thanksgiving week and take on Lamar Jackson. We all said, I think all of us were like, we're losing this game. So now that the Eagles are 9-2 and they've won 7 in a row, our confidence is way higher, and we obviously this defense is way better than we thought it would be before the start of the season. But I think it's going to be a tough matchup. And the real question is going to be, can the Eagle offense go tit for tat, right? Can they score enough to keep up and make that sure that the pressure stays on Lamar Jackson? Because Jackson has had moments, Josh, where he hasn't looked that great. And a couple of drives against the Chargers last Monday night was like, there's a reason Josh Allen and Saquon Barkley are overtaking him for MVP, because he has not had a great month of November. And so I do think that there are opportunities there, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough.
Yeah, he will give you moments. You're right. There's going to be moments, and he will give you those during the game of maybe an errant throw, maybe a little bit of mistake, hopefully a turnover, and you capitalize on that. But if Philly cannot do that, then that's where a little bit of concern comes in. But I'll admit the exact same thing. When we were going through the schedule predictions of, are the Eagles going to win? Are they going to lose a game in Baltimore late in the year? No, I did not have the confidence. Now, that was before the season, so things flipped around now, and what we've seen from this Eagles team, I believe that we can win, and I will predict us to win, but it's going to be a very difficult game. And so, as we go into it, I'm not, it was the 56 to whatever it was, 17 beatdown for Miami late in the year last year when Baltimore played them. It's so, I understand comparisons, and I understand people being like, but he's got a really good but it's so different because of the entirely different roster, the playmakers that you have on the different squads, the way that Miami plays football, even offensively, because they're fast paced, and if they get stopped, it just snowballs because the defense has to naturally play a whole lot more snaps, and they get tired, and it goes downhill. Plus, by that point in the season, a lot of the Miami players didn't want to play for Fangio. Like they were still going to make the playoffs, and they did, but they did not want to play for Fangio. Like they were at odds already. It got leaked afterward. It was, they couldn't stand his guts and all this other stuff. They kick rocks whenever he left. But this is a different team. This is a Eagles defense that's bought into what Fangio's doing, and they appreciate that old school mentality that he's brought into it. So. Again, understand some of those back and forth, but I will say that we win. That's what I'm going with. Kamali here with a 2 said went to the LA game, left ordering a Saquon jersey. So see, that's one of the reasons, obviously, with Saquon. But if you see Saquon in person, because I'm going to be honest, I don't know if it was for you. I'm assuming it was. For me, it was the first time to see Saquon in person, the Thursday night game against Washington. It's one thing to watch him on TV. It's another thing to see in person. We've seen him in person before, but to play a game, you have to. I mean, it's like, especially a game like that, you have to order a Saquon jersey. But what he's doing is just unreal.
I totally agree. I want one. It might be my next one. I don't know. I haven't decided what my next jersey is going to be. I'm very stuck on my DeVonta Smith jersey. I think Q or DeJean would be a really good one as well because they're playing so well. And they're going to be factors in this one too, Josh. I mean, think about Zay Flowers has been kind of the only real weapon that Lamar Jackson has used this season. There's been a little bit of Nelson Aguilar, a little bit of Rashad Bateman. Mark Andrews has come alive the past couple of weeks, really the past month. But it's Flowers. And I think that you're going to see, the clamps be put on. Overall, it was only 1 catch for Puka, 1 catch for Cooper against Quinion, and it made a massive difference in the second half when the Rams had to throw their way out of that game, and they weren't able to. And so I like the chances. I do think that if they were to lose this game, Philly's fine, and especially with the remaining of the remaining schedule. Carolina the next week, then the Steelers, then obviously Dallas and the Giants. They're going to be okay. The big question right now happens tomorrow in that 1 o'clock slot or noon slot down in Detroit. Can the Bears pull off an upset, and where will the Lions' next loss come from? Because right now, Detroit has that 1-game lead in the loss column for the 1 seed, and as we get closer to the playoffs, we'll talk about it more, but making teams come to Philadelphia is going to be a critical part of the Eagles' quest to get back to a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. We said it before. It's I was talking earlier with a buddy of mine and saying, look, it feels like, not to get ahead of ourselves, but just realistically looking at it, it feels like the NFC is a collision course for Detroit and Philly. And right now, it could totally change as we get close, but right now it does feel like the difference maker is who has home field advantage. It's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a crazy good game, but whoever has that home field advantage, it probably gives a little bit of that advantage.
I think so.
Just enough to help them get over the top. But Tyler with a 10, appreciate that. Said just got off and tuned in. There you go. Got off.
There you go.
Said thoughts on Vic saying Keeley is close to being ready, but sticking with Rodgers. I did see that.
I think that they like that they like Rodgers regardless of Keeley being healthy. And Keeley has been healthy this season. And I know ready kind of means ready to play cornerback, but I think they like Isaiah Rodgers. And Isaiah Rodgers has played very good football. I mean, the real flaw of Isaiah Rodgers last week was that pass interference that eventually gave up a Rams touchdown, but it wasn't pass interference. It was really good coverage on Nakua. And he had the forced fumble early on whenever Slay got knocked out. So Rodgers has been fantastic, and I would not mess up the flow of, Rodgers is automatically playing for Slay every single game because Slay checks out with some sort of injury each and every week, unfortunately. And so I wouldn't mess up the swagger. Slay's clearly not going to be, with the Eagles this next year. And so whether they want to keep Ringo or keep Rodgers or keep both, I think they would keep both, but we'll see. But I would definitely still be playing Isaiah Rodgers right now.
It would be cool also if Zay gets to play this week in Baltimore. Not that Deontay Johnson has done anything, because I have him in fantasy and I was like, oh, hey, maybe the numbers are going to get better. And it's been just fall off a cliff. He was actually doing really well considering in Carolina, and he's done nothing. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's related to Deontay Johnson. Either that or he's really good friends. I believe they're cousins, right? So I think there's a relation there. But he was talking about beforehand. I was like, hey, what matchup are you looking forward to if you could pick? And he said Deontay Johnson at the beginning of the season. So, again, a little bit of a difference with him playing well in Carolina and basically being forgotten in Baltimore. But I don't know. You never know. With Slay potentially being out, concussion protocol, it feels unlikely. I mean, everyone I think remembers the shot that he took from the tight end on the sideline that did knock him out of the game.
Yeah,
not impossible, but this part of the week still not even practicing. You got to pass all of the different sections of the concussion protocol to be back. It's leaning towards, I would imagine, that you got Isaiah Rodgers and Quinyon Mitchell on the outside. So we shall see. David Turn with a 5. Appreciate that, Dave. Says, lots of focus on the Ravens O versus the Eagles D, but what is your take on the Eagles O versus the Ravens D? Awesome show as always. Thank you for what you do. Go Birds.
I think it's a favorable matchup. Now, again, the Ravens defense is number 2 in the league in terms of run defense. And so there has not been a running back go for more than 88 yards against the Baltimore Ravens this season. That was Chase Brown, I think, 4 or 5 weeks ago with Cincinnati. So you would like to think that Saquon gets to 88. Last time I checked, the underdog higher or lower is 92, 93, whatever it was for Saquon, which is a big number. But and they're going to sell out for him. And so I think it'll be one of those quieter Saquon Barkley games. Now, does that mean he goes for 100 yards and a touchdown? Yes, that probably does. I mean, quiet for him is 100 and a touchdown versus 150 and 2 touchdowns. But I think they're going to have to throw their way around this. I think that Dallas Goedert needs to have a big day, and it's going to be a receiver versus cornerback matchup in terms of Philadelphia be able to take the advantage. That's where you really can attack this Baltimore Raven defense is their 2 cornerbacks, because everywhere else, especially if Roquan Smith plays, Kyle Hamilton's at safety, and then of course they have good edge rushers. Kyle Van Noy is like an ageless wonder. They're pretty good everywhere else.
Yeah, and I'll be curious as well. Like Marlon Humphrey has had actually surprising ratings based on grading for games, but when you talk about pass interference, like just watch how this game is officiated, because he grabs and pulls and there's pass interference on basically every single play, and they let him get away with it a lot. Like kudos to him for playing physical. But if it's a ticky-tack referee calling there, then it's going to probably benefit Philly. If it's not, then he's going to probably get away with murder of trying to. You can't slow down A.J. Brown. But I was watching the game against the Chargers, and I was like, man, there's at least 4 or 5 calls that they could have made there. And they're just like, nope, it's good play being made.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thought, though, that you bring up of Dallas Goedert, because, you also look at areas to exploit for Baltimore, and they have allowed some bigger games from tight ends. So, Will Dissly getting in some action there. Does Kellen Moore scheme that up? I'm just shocked sometimes of how little Dallas Goedert gets involved. And, I know the injury early in the season, yes, there was the Saints game, but you were already losing A.J. Brown, so it's a difference there. I don't know if it's the fact that, like, when A.J.'s out, there's more of an emphasis of spreading, but when AJ's there, it's like, and you absolutely should run the passing game through AJ Brown, but I don't know if it's a scheme thing or if it's he was not necessarily getting open based on, watching the film and the breakdowns there. It seemed like a little bit of both, but this does feel like one of those games where you got to get Dallas Goedert. I mean, he needs to have 4 or 5 catches, 60 or 70 yards, possibly a touchdown there. Because again, if you're the Ravens, if you're John Harbaugh, you've gone into this already saying Philly will not beat us with Saquon Barkley, and Philly will do as little as they can with A.J. Brown. Those are the 2 automatic playmakers. And again, I know it's easier said than done, because we could do the back and forth of, yes, teams say that every single game, but Baltimore and the way their defense plays are going to try to shift that. So I like that. Yeah, DG maybe taking advantage of some of the less focus, less attention, could get something there.
People asking what the line is. I believe it started out as Eagles plus 2.5, so Baltimore obviously getting the edge there. It might have moved to 3. I think
it's 3 in most places. Yeah,
3 most places now. Okay, which normally you get about 3 in terms of if you're traveling on the road. So that means that it's pretty even in terms of the odds right there. But obviously Baltimore at home does make a difference, and it's the game of the week. I mean, it really is in terms of everything that you look at. The CBS number 1 guys are there: Jim Nantz, Tony Romo. The afternoon game, wrapping up Thanksgiving week. It's going to be Hurts versus Jackson, and then of course the running back battle. It's a big one. I'm very excited to see what this team looks like, because we all said that this was the most complete offensive game for Philadelphia. Looking back at the Rams, because they were so red hot early and they still kick field goals, but still they were moving the football well. If that continues and if this team gets a lead at all, it's it's scary. It's scary to try and come back against the defense, and obviously with Saquon hitting home runs in the fourth quarter. And myself and Josh will be live as usual for Ravens versus Eagles in the afternoon, about 15 minutes before kickoff. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and join us for our live stream. Going to be a bunch of fun. I cannot wait for this one. Hopefully the Birds win. Let me know your score predictions down below. Thomas Mott, this has been the Thomas Mott Show.